Hola, I'm Robert Martinez, State Historian of New Mexico, and this is New Mexico History in 10 minutes. It's 1608, and the struggling Spanish colony led by Juan de Oñate has been in northern New Mexico for about 10 years. I want to talk about what is going on during this period. This is right after the catastrophe at Acoma in 1599. It's a catastrophe for the Acoma Pueblo people and for the Spanish people. The colony is already on edge. There's Spanish people. There are mestizo, mixed blood people. There are Africans and Mexican Indians. And it's a tough time. All the other pueblos are now on edge because of what happened at Acoma. And Oñate is having a tough time of it, keeping the colony together. He also has the pressures of trying to find mineral wealth, and the Strait of Anian, the South Sea. He has to keep exploring. So at one point in the early 1600s, he takes a lot of his soldiers east, led by a Plains Indian named Giuseppe, who helps them explore and essentially recreate the expedition of Francisco Vázquez de Coronado from 1540, and it doesn't go well. Nothing is found that would excite the Spanish. Then Oñate goes west and makes it to the Gulf of California. There are priests who want to establish missions in the area, but nonetheless, the access to water there is just too far away to make New Mexico a viable port colony for the Spanish. And more significant is the fact that while Oñate is off exploring, there is another kind of revolt taking place in his colony, and that's by the Spanish colonists themselves. Most of them desert. They head back south. These are well-to-do people, business people who wanted to come to New Mexico to make money, to create names for themselves and estates, and it really is just not turning out to be a success for them. And they are also spurred on by the Franciscan priests. Imagine that. The priests themselves are very disenchanted. They don't want to go off into the pueblos by themselves to try to evangelize or force them to be Catholics. So by the time Oñate returns, most of them have left. This is a problem for Oñate because he's still off exploring, and initially he had made it to western New Mexico, but had to return when Acoma exploded into a revolution in 1599. But when he gets back and finds most of his colonists gone, he knows he has a problem, because they're going to report to the viceregal capital that Oñate was abusive of Indians and of Spanish colonists, that he was too rigid with them, that they had to work hard, and this does not bode well for him. So what we have happening here is a colony that starts out with roughly 400 heads of household, Spanish heads of household, and it's reduced to probably about 20 or 30. These are the people whose names still come down to us: Martin Serrano, Martinez today, Chavez, Baca, Holguin, Montoya, Romero. All of those folks, they remain and they tough it out here in New Mexico, as do many of those Mexican Indians who stay to keep the colony going. So this is a problem for Oñate, though, because what eventually happens harkens back to what happened to Cristobal Colon, Christopher Columbus, and then Hernan Cortez in Mexico. They go on their venture. They're soldier conquistadores. They are businessmen. They invest in these ventures, and ultimately they are arrested and taken to the authorities to answer for accusations put against them. And this happens to Oñate. He's taken out of New Mexico. His son Cristobal is part of the expedition, and he fills in for Dad as governor of New Mexico. But ultimately, the viceroy in Mexico City sends a representative of the viceregal capital, Pedro de Peralta, to come to New Mexico and establish a villa here to be the center of Spanish government and to start, hopefully, establishing a more smooth running colony. Well, that is pie in the sky. We know from documents found in Europe and brought back to New Mexico a few years back by Tomas Chavez, who was director of the New Mexico History Museum at the time, that Santa Fe, while officially established in 1610, was already planned at least as early as 1608 and maybe was being laid out and constructed. It's hard to tell, but nonetheless, by the time Pedro de Peralta arrives, Oñate is taken down to Mexico City, arrested in chains, not treated as a hero. Rather, he is treated as a criminal and then sent to Spain, where he serves out his sentence as an inspector of mines at Guadalcanal, where he dies. He is banished from New Mexico, never to return. So this leaves the colony somewhat vulnerable. Vulnerable to what we will see will be a series of governors and Franciscan priests who aren't always the best representatives of their vocations. The story goes that in 1613, a priest by the name of Fray Isidro de Ordóñez comes to New Mexico. And it's significant because in this same time period, one of Oñate's soldiers, Gaspar de Villagra, he goes south after Oñate sends him to find some deserters and execute them, which he does. He cut their heads off. And ironically, he heads south. But he ended up in Spain, where in that period of 1611, 1613, he publishes his epic, La Historia de la Nueva Mexico. It's a brilliant piece of history, literature, and fantastical story in the vein of Homer's Odyssey, and it gives us insight into these early years of the Spanish colony. But that priest I mentioned, Fray Isidro de Ordóñez, he is a pícaro. He shows up with forged documents giving him inquisitorial authority in New Mexico. And what starts happening in 1613 is a major divide and schism with governors on one side and Franciscans on the other. Isidro Ordóñez goes after Governor Pedro de Peralta, treats him badly and disrespectfully in the church. The governor retaliates against Ordóñez and other Franciscan priests. And what we see happening, and will happen over the next few decades, are colonists and Pueblo Indians caught between these two fighting and combating factions. It will be a problem, we'll see, because it creates a very unhealthy and unstable colony. Add to that the Spanish colonists that are here are far away from centers of education like Mexico City or Salamanca in Spain, and therefore what we get over the next two generations are a population of very illiterate people who are prone to superstition and gossip. And it starts to affect the moral fiber of New Mexico's Spanish colony. We'll see things change, though. They'll shift and turn a corner in 1625 with the arrival of Fray Alonso de Benavides. He brings documents that make him the official agent of the Inquisition in New Mexico, and he is the custo, or the custodian of the church here in New Mexico. I will talk about what happens from 1625 till 1680 in the next episode. So until then, be well, be safe. Hasta luego. Bye.